Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, we do encourage you to call in to join in today. But we are going to open it up for you today. It's a complete, wide open beginning of the week version of the show. We're going to allow you to come on in by setting the agenda as you see it. We're going to talk a bit about the up and coming schedule. As you always know, that's how we kick off the show. We're going to delve into the issue of the Watergate of eye care. I covered those points right at the end of our Friday show, and really didn't give it enough time for the emphasis that I think it's really required. A lot of stuff is going on here in my office concerning the eyes, no less of a major contribution to the treatment of cataracts, which will be coming up again with another program here toward the end of the month. So you can come on in at any moment and set the agenda as you see it. You do so by dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I'll listen for that knock on the door, and I will let you in the store. Okay, let's see how the week of the month really is going to shape up. Wednesday's show you don't want to miss. Now we're going to be pulling a number of things together, but we've, I believe, found the key to reversing cataracts and doing so in 4 days. I know it sounds fantastic, but it just worked out that way with the last group of people. Admittedly a small group, no doubt about it, but the results were so overpowering when it comes to how much we accomplished in 4 days, and the wide variation of people who were afflicted with cataracts showed equally good responses, whether they had a mild to moderate contact or whether they had a fully advanced cataract. So on Wednesday, I finally got Dr. Lisa Bowen, to consent to come on the show. She'll be with us on Wednesday talking about her experience, what she saw with this small group of cataract patients, and get her to tell you in written word and spoken word what we all saw in the actual word on not last Thursday, but the Thursday before, when we were in her office. I'm also going to try to get, and I think I can in a couple of cases, some of the patients who are actually in that program who have this kind of response. I'd really like to get their testimonial on the air. So this will be the cataract show, the one that just had to happen after we got the results that we did so much more to be able to offer Western Pennsylvania, and this, as a matter of fact, the Eastern Seaboard, when it comes to up and coming future cataract programs. But you don't want to miss Wednesday's show. It will be a platinum edition of the many shows that I brought to you, but I'm really looking forward and extremely proud of having Dr. Lisa Bowen on our airways on Wednesday to talk about cataracts. Then, as the month moves on, don't forget, we have a Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy meeting. It's going to be held at its now new venue. They had one and one time only up at the Butler venue, which was last week. Now we're going to be back to the Oakmont region at Riverside Landings. Going to be there on the 11th of June. So that's a change. It's not the third Thursday as usual. It is the second Thursday. And the featured speaker will be David Lober, an MD in the Western Pennsylvania area, who's going to be talking about functional medicine. I spoke to David on the phone just briefly the other day. He will be coming on board to be our guest next Monday, 1 week from today, to sort of titillate you a bit and see if he can get you to come on out to spend an evening with him on the 11th. So here on Monday the 8th, there in Oakmont, on Thursday the 11th at the Freedom and Choice in Cancer Therapy meeting, which will be held at 7 o'clock. In between those two wonderful dates, I'm talking about Dr. Vava Vavoom herself, a little bit different for her. She's usually here on first Wednesday and couldn't make it. She had a schedule conflict. So she'll be here on June 10th, Wednesday. Then we'll have one following week after that. Dr. David Minkoff will be on board with us. Dr. Minkoff runs a clinic out of Clearwater, Florida, in which he concentrates on the treatment of Lyme's disease. He's very effective when it comes to treating Lyme's disease. He takes no prisoners. I call him the gunslinger. And whenever he comes on our show, I think you'll see what I mean. The man takes it very personal and does not accept failure easily. And because of that combination, is quite successful with getting the Lyme's disease patients turned around. So David Minkoff, the gunslinger himself, will be our guest on the 17th. I have a community presentation going to be giving on the last day of the month, June 30th, at a place called Strabane Trails Village. It'll be on eye care, and if you're in that region, I'll try to get you more information about coming out to see me for a free seminar at Strabane Trails Village, 2:30 on June the 30th, and that's the way the month is shaping up for now. Eye programs. We can't have enough eye programs. We're getting a lot of calls from you. We had a recent newspaper ad. We were barraged by individuals interested in learning more about our eye programs. And now I can tell you we've run two kinds of treatments simultaneously. So the next eye program that we're going to be having, normally we say it's a 3-day eye treatment protocol. Of course, that is the Dr. Ed Condrad program for retinal diseases. And we will have our next program on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. That is a 3-day Dr. Condrad program. But piggybacked right on to the 3-day program is the new Dr. Dennis Courtney cataract program that I hope you hear learn a lot about on Wednesday with Dr. Bowen. And if you have cataracts and you're looking to try to get those turned around to avoid a surgery, I believe this is the reason why you step up and do the 4-day program with me to be able to answer that question. I think it's going to be completely knowable in 4 days whether or not you can avoid that surgery. I'm not saying we're going to get your cataract completely turned around, but what you need to see with an impending surgery either known or looming out in the distance is that you do not have to have that surgery in order to get your cataract corrected. And in 4 days, we're going to be able to answer that question pretty clearly. And if the answer is yes, and I believe in the highest percentage of cases, I'm shooting, by the way, for the same 92%. We have a 92% effective rate when it comes to the retinal diseases like MACD or glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy, and the list goes on and on and on. That's phenomenal enough. It's unbelievable, as a matter of fact, that we have a 92% success rate. I'm just thinking that we should equally have a 92% success rate with our cataracts patients in order to allow them to avoid that surgery. So when you want to learn more about it, here's a couple places to go. Number one, head to the Pittsburgh Eye Protocol website. That's pittsburgheyeprotocol.com. And on that site, you can read about our programs here that we offer. We also link on to the Dr. Ed Condrad site, which is Healing the Eye and Wellness Center. His new center is now out of Fort Myers, Florida. and Dr. Kondrat will has a very busy website. Easy to get lost into that website. Our website is very simple. You won't get lost there. And in a couple of appropriate places, we actually have a link to the Dr. Kondrat site to make it easier for you to get to some pretty interesting statistical information on how effective these programs have been over the last 3 years. So with all that being said, you can either go to the website. If you want to find out specifically more information about any of the programs, here's the number to call. You dial up 724-993-0500. That's 724-993-0500. Some more information. The most recent Lifestyle Medicine Journal for the spring has an article entitled, of all things, the cataract cure. And I wrote that article prior to having the actual seminar, the treatment seminar. And I did so pretty much anticipating the great results. I feel even stronger about it now. The results were extremely powerful and extremely potent. Anyway, head to the Lifestyle Journal for the spring edition and read the article on the cataract cure. Also, the add-in page has a lot of clarifying information on the program. And so once again, the 1 or 2 places you can go to check this out is either at our website at pittsburgheyprotocol.com or give Sister Sarah a call at 724-993-0500. Many up-and-coming cataract programs. Just the next one will be on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th of the month. Should also mention that the vitamin C kits are now in and available. Many of you requested it. We finally put together another program to allow you to consume vitamin C in the most scientifically prepared way, in the cheapest possible way you can do it. The combination is that you mix your own now, because you have to have a non-corn derived source of vitamin C, and you need to make it a liposomal form of vitamin C by mixing it with a lecithin product. We found the vitamin C in a citrus-derived form, and we found the lecithin in a non-soy-derived form. Mixing these two together will produce a liposomal form that you will congeal by placing it in, of all things, an ultrasonic jewelry cleaner, which is also included in the kit. So that entire kit is available for you. And just give us a call here at 724-942-3002 and tell them you want to order one. You can either, and you more than likely want to stop by and pick this up. You don't want this sent in the mail. It's a little bulky and just too expensive to do it. Stop by and pick yours up. We're out here in McMurray, PA, just on Route 19. That's called Washington Road. We're at 3075 Washington Road. Stop in at any time to pick up your kit. We've got a number of batches left for those of you who want to be involved with it. What else? I think that's good for openers today right now. We'll just take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to open it up to you at any time you'd like to set the agenda by dialing us up at 412. Got too many numbers here. That's 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. We'll be back in a moment. I'll listen for the knock on the door. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. We're here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today in a Monday morning version of the show. It's a slightly different version. We're opening it up, you see, to let you come on either at any time that you'd like to set the agenda as you see it for a change. You do that by dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And then I'll listen for the knock on the door, and I will let you in the store. You can call up and ask a question. You can make a comment. Any form of communication is okay with me. Just dial us up at 412-825-6262. And let's see what's on your mind. I wanted to mention a big success is now becoming a part of this practice when it comes to chelation therapy. I think this is the only place in the country that you can expect to do chelation therapy au naturel. Now, two forms of chelation that I think we better make certain that you appreciate. One is chelation therapy utilized to remove plaque on the inside of arteries. That's plaque on the inside of arteries. This is a form of chelation therapy that's been put into play since the mid-1950s. All sorts of protocols were attempted, but one protocol was accepted and continues to be the only unique protocol throughout literally the world, utilizing IV EDTA. That's IV EDTA, the intention of which is to remove plaque on the inside of arteries. I know that we were taught that it can't be done. At least my entire medical career, I was told, can't do a thing about it. It just happens, and it keeps on building up and occluding vessels over time. Lo and behold, that turned out not to be true, as I challenged what I was taught in the mid-1990s and continued to offer this form of IV EDTA chelation therapy that removes plaque from the inside of arteries on a pretty regular basis. And back in the day, we had a room full. I think there was 15 lazy boy lounge chairs in a room, and we literally had to run shifts, 2, sometimes 3 shifts a day, to accommodate the vast numbers of people who wanted to get IV chelation therapy for that purpose. Now, about 2002, another product hit the scene, an oral form, a liposomal form of EDTA that allowed us to do it orally. But you must distinguish removing plaque from the inside of arteries from another form of chelation therapy, which is equally as important, and that's the removal of heavy metals. Now, when it comes to that form of chelation therapy, there's been something eating at my craw for the longest time. I mentioned it on air in the last couple of months. I'm going to take the time to do it again. And the thing that eats at me is that here we are, when it comes to the removing of metals, we claim that we are alternative doctors, and we shun the use of pharmaceutical preparations. We feel that these pharmaceutical preparations are chemical substances that we'd like to avoid. And so I will tell you that I rarely, if ever, write for a prescription for a drug. Just not done. So why then was it that when I felt that it was to my advantage to use those drugs, then I just completely ignored the promise I literally made to patients, which was to avoid the use of drugs. But when I felt I needed to, I used some of the harshest substances known to man to remove those metals. Things like EDTA, DMPS, DMSA, penicillamine was another one. There are still others beyond that. These are no longer needed, and it's why I bring you a message that it's now possible to remove heavy metals au naturel. Natural chelation therapy is now possible, and it's run out of my office on a daily basis. If you think you would like to deal with your heavy metal burden, and you'd like to do so without using these harsh chelating substances, most of which requires a medical doctor's prescription to use, and there are plenty of doctors out there who will use them. It's just we need not do that any longer. We have a natural form of chelation therapy. We had explained to us by our good friend Ed Kane this past month. By the way, I'll refer you to, and let me find the show. Head to my website, and you'll want to be doing the show that we did with Ed Kane on May 13th. So you go to djcmd.com. On the opening page, click on the icon marked archives, and that takes you onto YouTube, and just scroll to May 13th and listen to the show that we did on minerals and natural chelation therapy. So I can't claim the invention of this approach. I think I can ascribe that to my very good friend Ed Kane, but even Ed hasn't looked at this in the proper way, because I believe Ed stumbled on a way to conquer the issue of chelation therapy and completely take off the table the need to use these harsh pharmaceuticals. So I don't believe that being hypocritical anymore, on the one hand claiming that we don't use drugs, but on the other hand, when it suits us, we use some of the harshest substances known to man, under the carrying the crucifix that we're here to help remove your metals, and when we think we want to use them for a special benefit, then we will use these harsh chemical substances, pharmaceutical substances that require licensure, medical licensure to use. I say no more. In the words of the great Roberto Duran, no mas. We can't use a natural form of chelation therapy where giving you the appropriate minerals will jettison and remove the heavy metals from a material called metallothionein, and in so doing, you can do two things at once. One, replace all the minerals that you are lacking, and number two, in replacing those minerals, remove all of the heavy metals that are occupying metallothionein, and by preference want to be occupied by the correct metals of the body, the minerals, that is. And the combination of these two allows us to complete a unique way of doing a removal of the heavy metal burden with a approach that I refer to as natural chelation therapy. As I say, I didn't invent it, but I did name it, and I think that Ed Kane has allowed me to use the name natural chelation because he never looked at it that way. Anyway, if you want to find out more about this, two ways to do it. One, go to the show we did on May 13th with Ed. Or number two, I just refer you to his website at bodybio.com. That's bodybio.com. And on the opening page of his website, just scroll down a little bit from the top and you'll see He has 3 YouTube videos right on his website that explain this entire procedure in a pretty easy fashion, allowing you to understand that this was done by 30 years ago and continued to this very day. And he never really realized that he had a natural form of chelation therapy until I brought it to his attention with a phone call of a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, natural chelation therapy is alive and well and kicking in my office. And if you think you'd like to do a round of it, give us a call, 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002. And we'll have you doing natural chelation in a heartbeat. We'll let it go at that. Okay. Time to switch some gears, folks. Let's take a short break. When we return, we open it up to you. You may want to come on in the store and knock on the door. You do so by dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. We'll be back in a moment more on the subject of the Watergate of eye care. And I'll listen for that knock, and we'll see if we can take it up to the top of the hour with you. Be right back in a moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Here we are in a Monday morning version of the show. We open it up to you. If you'd like to come on in here and set the agenda as you see it, you do so by dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I'll listen for that knock on the door, and I will let you in the store. Now, I brought this article to your attention on Friday, and I did so right in the closing moments of the show. I really didn't think that I allowed myself the emphasis that I wanted to put forth to you, and so I'm going to come at this another way today. This is the article that led to the show that Ed Condrot and I did on December 17th of 2014. So if you want to hear this show in its entirety, go back to the archives at djcmd.com, click on the icon marked archives, and then scroll back to December 17th of 2014 and listen to the show in its entirety. The show was prompted by a phone call made to me by Ed Condrot, who was very riled up at the time because he just got a hold of a research paper done by a number of institutions. This particular one was done at the University of Pennsylvania, a very prestigious institution. It was called the CAT study, which it doesn't really match up, but in terms of how it was explained to me, CATT is supposed to be the compilation of age-related macular degeneration treatment trials. How they got CATT out of that, I'm not too sure, but that's what it stands for, and it's what's done at the University of Pennsylvania by Dr. Grunwald et al. It consisted of 1,024 patients, so It was over a 2-year period, and as I say, a very extensive study was done studying the use of injections into the eye for a condition referred to as wet macular degeneration. Now, MACD is probably the #1 retinal disease most common in the United States for sure. Maybe the world. I'm not too sure about that, so I won't make that statement. But certainly in the United States. And it claims vision by an awfully large number of people. It is the #1 retinal disease out there, claiming vision loss in a large segment of the population. And unfortunately, nothing can be done about it. Now, I say that, and I emphasize the fact that nothing can be done about it to reverse it. Nothing. And anyone in the conventional medical community absolutely knows that. But yet they have this treatment, they say, for wet macular degeneration. And then the patients that I see who consent to this actually believe that this treatment is somehow benefiting them to actually improve their MACD, which is not the case. I'm going to underline it once again. It does nothing. These injections do nothing to improve your vision. And so when I hear patients, and I do hear a large number of them, that tell me, well, I got to go get another injection. It's my 6th injection or my 8th injection. Or I had one patient, 20-some times they were injected with a substance called Avastin, or an anti-VEGF substance. Now, why are they using this treatment approach? It turns out that in wet macular degeneration, there's actually bleeding going on back at the retina. And through the use of these injections, they can stop that bleeding. And they do so by injecting a substance known as anti-VEGF. VEGF stands for vascular endothelial growth factor, and a particular drug called Avastin, used mainly in cancer treatment, is actually able to prevent the formation of new blood vessels in the back of the eye and will stop the bleeding. Now, this has been the motivation by retinal specialists throughout the country to utilize an injection to stop that bleeding, and under the guise that it will benefit those patients. It now looks as though that's a very shaky premise. First of all, the premise that it is able to restore some improvement in your vision is absolutely never in the cards. No matter whether you get injected or not, you will not be able to reverse macular degeneration through conventional means. But somehow they feel and have felt that by injecting the bleeding would somehow be beneficial to you, and been able to tell a lot of patients that they should have these injections. So here we go. Over the 2-year study, they finally published. And here's what we learned. And this is pretty startling when you think every retinal specialist out there knows the results of these studies. I'm going to guess, however, that as many injections as they must do, they rarely, if ever, discuss the results of this study because it's not in their best financial interest, or at least that's the way I see it. So here we go. There are 4 points to make with the result of this study. Here's point number 1. I think it's a travesty that it was reported that 95% of the patients who received those injections into their eye demonstrated vision stability by receiving those injections. Now, that sort of indicates, doesn't it, that it's like a good thing if you get these injections, because 95%, an awfully high number of patients who get this injection, appear to have their vision stabilized as a result of it. To me, they're trying to tell me this is good, when in fact, look at what they mean by vision stability. And this is what got Dr. Kondrat's dander up so bad back in December, which is why he called me and said, I got to take this on your show. But the vision stability, quotation marks, that the study indicated was possible 95% of the time by getting these injections, the definition of vision stability was this. It was defined as the ability to see plus or minus 15 letters on the eye chart. That's 3 entire lines on the eye chart, meaning you could lose the vision and the inability to read 3 lines on an eye chart, 15 letters, and still be considered to have stable vision. To me, it's a travesty to think that they were allowed to define vision stability as losing 3 lines on the eye chart, because if we lost 3 letters in what we do, we would consider it abject failure. How the conventional medical community is allowed to get away with such a loose definition of vision stability, of 3 lines of vision loss, and call that vision stability is it's a travesty, and it's a scam, and it needs to be pointed out to our listeners so that they will not be subject of individuals of prey when it comes to coaxing into folks to have these kinds of injections. Number 2, 21.5% of the patients who get these eye injections demonstrate one or more of the following systemic eye infections. That's eye effects. That's 1 in 5, 2 out of 10, either get a thromboembolic event, they get heart failure, they get strokes, heart attacks, neuropenic sepsis, GI perforation, or a hypertensive crisis. That's 1 in 5 who get the injections. How about this one? Number 3, and I'm going to get to the caller in just a moment. Number 3, 18.3. We'll round that off and we'll say 20% of the patients who got the injection also developed retinal atrophy at the injection site. Now, at least when there was bleeding happening at the site, this tissue was still alive. When you get retinal atrophy, you have now killed the tissue. It can't bleed anymore because it's dead, and it is necrotic. And 1 in 5 get necrotic eye tissue. This condition is called retinal atrophy, and it is irreversibly a dead zone in the back of your eye. That cannot be good, and it's a very high number. And of course, there were other eye complications in point number 4, things like retinal detachment, endophthalmitis, glaucoma, and cataract. These are the results of 1,024 patients and the percentages, and they had to be brought to your attention. Anyway, more on that matter in just a moment. We do have a knock on the door. Come on, the store. Hello, welcome aboard. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Hey, Dr. Courtney, some pretty exciting stuff there.
Hey, how about that, David?
Oh, but the medical part of it, though, is what you're describing what the eye doctors are doing. It's so typical of what most medicine is today. You know, it's 007, license to kill, right?
Oh, they heard these people in there, and they are not telling them. I know they're not telling them these numbers. They know the numbers. They're not telling them the numbers. And in a moment, I'm going to tell you why they're not telling them the numbers. When you see what they get paid to do this 10-second injection, your jaw will drop. Anyway, David, what'd you call it about?
I was just like oncology to me, too. So,
Oh, yeah.
I were to see last week, and so exciting, the Beamer.
The Beamer.
blew us away, and with the minerals, blew me away. And if you've got those results with glaucoma, I just can't wait to see what kind of results you get with other conditions.
Well, yeah, we had one patient who actually did this new mineral natural chelation kind of thing, and he had an unbelievable turnaround. It was so nice to be able to help him. He was a young guy. He really had fallen through the cracks. His glaucoma was missed. It was not brought to his attention. He was losing valuable vision, and he was a guy who works in the entertainment world. Doing something with making movies in a dark environment, when he was losing his ability to perform his artistic function, and we've rescued him. And it was so nice to be able to help him. We sent him back to New York City. We'll maintain contact with him, but he got an excellent result with the combination of the new minerals that we brought out for the Physics Fast group. And you mentioned a miraculous device that we have in our office now called the Beamer. And I showed you the video of the Beamer. I'm going to tell patients out there, or listeners, go to Beamer/Vasomotion and just look at that 3-minute video. You'll never forget it. Right, David?
Oh, never. And we've thought of people we know who are suffering from other things that have nothing to do with the eye. How the combination of minerals and that has got to help them. And believe it or not, Doc, one of the people we got a hold of right away was an old friend and mentor of mine, Tasso. And we went to see him, actually went to see him and how he was doing. And I told him about your Beamer, and guess what he told me?
He's already doing it.
He was the first person on it.
He was the first person on the Beamer. That's right. Oh, yeah, you thought you were going to pull one on Tasso Spanos. Nobody pulled one on Tasso.
No, he, of course, had everything nutritionally that he needed, and here he's first person on the Beamer. I think as soon as you get him on the minerals, you're going to see a fantastic turnaround.
Another great turnaround. I think, by the way, I called Ed Condra. This is a little sort of behind-the-scenes pull. And when I talked to Ed, I said, Ed, I can't believe it. I got to tell you, I had an amazing group of cataract patients go through, and we turned them around in 4 days. Here's Dr. Ed Condra, the eye guy, saying to me, hey, well, what did you do? Because he's really not having that kind of success. And I told him, well, we're going to use this frequency-specific microcurrent and this new thing called the Beamer. And he goes, well, Dr. Courtney, I've been using frequency-specific microcurrent and the Beamer, and I haven't been getting the kind of results you claim you got. And I went, Ed, you know what? You're not doing the minerals, are you? And he said, what do you mean? So I had to get into a discussion about these minerals. I believe the minerals, bringing the minerals into this at the level of the mineralization that we're doing, made this all happen. And here it was, Dr. Conrad himself wasn't getting those results because he wasn't bringing the minerals into it. I've since told Ed, this is what to do with the minerals, and I expect him to get back with me and tell me that he's able to duplicate the results. That's the whole thing about duplicating. I mean, if I get the results and nobody else does, come on. It shouldn't happen that way at all. He should be able to get the same results while bringing the minerals in there, and I believe in a week or two he'll be able to tell me that he does and is, and I'll report back to you, the listener, that he's on board.
Since Faith and I saw you last week, my mind has just been racing on the implications of what you've stumbled upon here, and how many different people and different conditions he's going to help. And I think one of the big ones, it's in the news, with the sports athletes, young athletes, about head trauma. This even like mild chronic head trauma, it goes undiagnosed in a lot of people. I mean, if it's going to help something so small like cataracts and get to the small capillaries.
Oh yeah, and by the way, it helps cataracts, and there's no real blood flow to the lens. This was the amazing thing about the cataract, because here the Beamer improves vasomotion and blood flow to every part of your body. except the one place in the body, there are probably a couple others, but the one place for sure you don't have any blood vessels is the lens of the eye. So how is it that the Beamer is so helpful with reversing pathology in the lens? It's because the associated blood vessels around the lens and around the other structures of the eye are so enhanced by the flow of blood to those structures that the aqueous and vitreous humor gets an overabundance of the nutrients that it hasn't seen in a long time. So in an indirect way, the lens is able to benefit from vasomotion into the blood vessels that it doesn't even get the benefit of directly, and it's able to turn things around in 4 days. It was amazing, and I reported that back to you, and I'll let you know what happens in the next group and whether Dr. Kondrat's able to get similar results.
Phenomenal. Hey, could you tell me how is like a mild brain trauma, chronic brain trauma diagnosed?
Well, there are some obvious ways where you can get electrical disturbances and you can objectively diagnose it with the disturbances of the way electrical current passes through the brain. But so much of the time when it comes to the brain, it's cognitive loss and it's other testing when it comes to the ability to exercise the appropriate mental responses and be able to demonstrate that you have maintained your thought processes and your speech and everything else. So I think it's the people that do neurological testing are truly gifted when they have the multitude of ways of assessing the brain from about 8 or 10 different aspects, none of which are completely objective and quantifiable. It's not like I do a test. It is doing a series and a battery of tests through neurological testing that will be able to determine how much got lost, and then on the good side, how much gets gained and regained. So I think it's pretty sophisticated and not so objective.
Yeah, I see Dr. Amen on PBS, the specials he's done on PBS.
Mm-hmm.
According to him, like so many people are walking around with this undiagnosed. So they played football when they were a kid, a car accident, when they're a teenager, and they're walking around, they're depressed, going right in their life, and it's never diagnosed. And I think something that you've come across here with this Beamer and the minerals is makes such a big difference. So many people don't even know they have a problem.
More on the Beamer side, because we've got like a kid with a new toy here, because such a great response. I had the Beamer like a total of 2 weeks in my office now, and it's made medical history here. And there are a couple of other things. I'm just going to reserve talking about them just momentarily because I'm going to wait for a couple more changes in a few other patients having nothing to do with eyes. But when you are able to restore blood flow to all parts of the body, you can expect to have an impact on a whole bunch of things beyond the eyes alone. And I'll report it back to you. And I think when I report the couple of cases that I have in mind and on the tip of my tongue, you will be in awe. I know I'm in awe right now. I'm just waiting for the right moment to bring it to everybody's attention, and I hope to be able to do it soon.
So exciting, Doc. So exciting.
Thank you, David.
Bye now.
All right. There you have Dave Fish. And on the Watergate of eye care. Now, I told you, and by the way, you can get in here with about 8 minutes left to go at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. So back in the Watergate era, I mean, we have all these gates that developed since the 1970s with the Richard Nixon and the tapes and all that, but it all pointed back then to following the money. Don't you remember the fellow that met Woodward and Bernstein in the parking garage tells him to follow the money? And so when you're going to try to use a term like the Watergate of eye care, you pretty much have to have an issue where you can follow the money. So one thing is to report to you what actually happened in the study of 1,024 patients, and to think that you were able to get away with saying that 95% of the people had their vision stabilized, and that stability meant they could lose 3 lines of vision, is a scam unto itself. And then that 1 in 5 had a very serious, potentially devastating event like a heart attack or a stroke or heart failure. And then another 20% had atrophy. Now, this is all happening, and every retinal specialist knows it, and yet I'm going to tell you they never mention, I'm just going to figure, they aren't mentioning these side effects to a patient who already is reluctant about getting an injection in their eye. All that you'd have to do is say, oh, by the way, 20% of the time we're gonna kill a part of that eye, and then another 20% of the time you're gonna have a very serious medical issue come up. I just don't see them telling them that, and it's a crime. But let's get to the Watergate aspect, because you got to follow the money if you want to try to use the term Watergate and get away with it. And as it turns out, when the New York Times went and investigated these injections, they came up with a couple of things that, by reporting them, certainly allows the Watergate moniker to be used. In this case, the Watergate of eye care. Turns out that the company that manufactures one of the drugs being used in the injections, that drug's called Lucentis. And you know what? The name of the company, I'm no Merck. I better not say. I don't know what company it is, but I'll get it back to you. But the name of the substance is Lucentis. Anyway, they've got a kickback. They pay the doctors $60 a crack. Now, that's a mere pittance, a drop in the bucket, but it does show a kickback component. And then finally, when you hear the last mention here, is that the retinal specialists that do these 10-second injections charge anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000 for each 10-second injection, and that on average they perform about 1,000 injections a year. I think you got the reason behind why there are people going in to the retinal specialties, don't you? Knock on the door. Come on, this door. Hello, welcome aboard. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Yes, Dr. Courtney. If you have narrow angle glaucoma, that be the same as doing it for glaucoma?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Whether it's open angle or narrow angle, glaucoma is glaucoma, and it can be reversed. Please come on in and so we can talk about it. 92% batting average to get this thing reversed in 3 days. I know it sounds crazy, but it's what we do and what we have done. Well, we've done it for 2 years, but Dr. Conrad, who invented these programs, has been doing it for 14 years. And it's tried and true. Come on in and check us out, ma'am.
Well, if you also had cataracts, what program would you do?
Well, it just so happens that the way we've got these programs structured now, you can have your glaucoma corrected in 3 days, and by staying 1 additional day, we can and should be able to reverse your cataract at the same time. So we're not going to make you come back and do 2 different programs. We're going to do both things at the same time. Sound like a good idea to you?
Sounds good.
Come on in. Give us a call here at talk to Sister Sarah by dialing us up at 724-993-0500. Okay, ma'am?
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, we're coming up. We're in that final gun lap, folks. So much happening. I know that you're going, man, the guy just keeps talking about eyes. And I really feel that I need to get that message out. We've been saying that we can handle the retinal diseases for so long, but this awareness about being able to deal with cataracts is so new, it's so fresh, and cataracts truly are the number one eye disease suffered by all people worldwide. That cloudiness of the lens that seems to develop with aging, and it ruins aging, and it almost, in such a high percentage of the cases, has to be rectified by surgery. We say no surgery. At least you've got a couple of steps now you just have to take before you ever allow surgery to be done on you, even though that surgery has a very good effective rate, well into the 90%. There are problems with that surgery you don't want to get into. You do not want to go there. And to find out there's a way to avoid it, and it looks as though we're going to be in the 90% range for being able to get it turned around, just says this is one stop first. You got to come here first. So give us a call at 724-993-0500 and let us try to help you. Okay, there's Bill on his chopsticks. Don't miss Wednesday's show. It is the show that put us on the map, that cataract program discussed by the eye doctor who was just as shocked as I was with the results. I begged her to come on the show. She'll be here on Wednesday, Dr. Elisa Bowen, our guest, and try to get a couple of those patients to come on board too. Till then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.